And right off the top here, Patrick Cooney breaks into one of his famous analogies. So I'm looking forward to, and I hope you are as well, Patrick Cooney in conversation with Gerald Celente.
Gerald, I'm sitting in my office in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and I'm looking at the carpet. And if anybody's done any handiwork, you know that you should measure at least twice, cut once. Why is the global banking system in such disarray? Why do we have trillions of dollars off balance sheet? Why do central banks and politicians keep lurching from one crisis to the next and not solving the problem but exacerbating it?
Because they range between sociopaths and psychopaths. They're unqualified to be doing what they're doing, and the only reason they get away with it is because they're running the show. They're called politicians, they're called prime ministers, they're called congressmen, senators, secretaries of this and that, and they roll out the red carpet. They're called heads of the IMF, and you just keep going down the list, and they just keep, pumping themselves up as they're the best and the brightest. After all, they are. Because when they commit any infractions, when they get caught stealing, when they get caught screwing up, they get nothing other than maybe promoted. So that's what they are. I mean, you just look at the failures. By their deeds you shall know them. Go back, listen to what Ben Bernanke, the head of the United States Federal Reserve System, promised. Nothing that he's promised has come true. Go back to the European Union. You listen to Sarkozy when he was president of France. You listen to Merkel. You listen to Rajoy, the head of the Spanish crime syndicate over there, who plays prime minister. Everything that they've said they have not delivered on. And it's not only in economics. How about starting a war? Let's go to Iraq and Afghanistan. Every one of these losers have gotten people killed. They're never held responsible for what they do. Doesn't anybody get it?
Well, how do we solve the problem?
How to solve the problem? Yeah, the way to solve the problem is by putting power back in the hands of the people. A country like Switzerland, where they have 11 million, 7 million people there, size doesn't mean anything. On major issues, they get to vote. You want to go to war, the people vote. When did Switzerland go to war last? I think it was, at 1837? So if you're going to give your money away to the too big to fails, let the people vote. We do not have – this whole line of democracy is a lot of BS. You take the United States. You have a gang of 535 senators and congressmen in total telling 312 million people how to tie their shoes. What's best for you, what's good for you, what you should do. And the prostitutes keep it going. The prostitutes are the same kids in high school that used to interview the school principal that are now sucking up, bowing down, and deferring to the higher authorities.
Well, recently something came out, I think it was this week, and roughly $460 billion U.S. has left the banking system in Greece, Portugal, Spain, I think in Ireland. Where is that money going?
Where's it going? Look at the money. Look at the numbers coming out to the distribution of wealth. It's going to the top 1%. The numbers keep coming out, and everybody keeps looking at them, and nobody wants to pay attention to them. Who the hell is worth $44 billion? I mean, what do people have to see? Corporations used to be owned by shareholders and by the people that started the corporations. Now they're owned by hedge funds. They're owned by private equity groups. They're owned by criminal bankers. The banking system has taken over the world. This isn't communist rhetoric. It's fact. You look what's going on in the EU. Mario Draghi, where did he come from? Who dreamt this guy up? I'll tell you who. The former vice chairman of the Goldman Sachs gang, now head of the European Central Bank. What did he decide? I'll tell you what he decided. We're going to print all the money we need to buy up all those worthless, crappy bonds that Italy, Ireland, and Spain and Portugal can't sell, and we're going to give the banks all the money they need. We're going to deposit it right in their banks, and they could then give it to the so-called investors and also give them interest for their bad bets.
Well, so what does the average citizen globally, what does the average investor do in the face of all this corruption? Like, we can't trust capital markets. We can't trust governments. Central banks were in cahoots with the guys on Wall Street and Bay Street. So what does the average investor/citizen do?
Well, only speaking for myself, I don't give financial advice. You go to our website, TrendsJournal.com, click on the forecast page. I've been screaming about gold since it was $275 an ounce. I said that was the bottom of gold. 3 weeks ago, I said gold is going to go up again when it was $16.75. I said that's the next breakout point. I announced on our Trends in the News feature that I'm buying again. As we're speaking, it's around $17.75. And you're looking at every central bank. You're looking at the Bank of Japan. You're looking at the Chinese. You're looking at the Americans. You're looking at the Brazilians. You're looking around the world at the Europeans. They're all throwing in more stimulus. Stimulus devalues the quality of the currency. It causes inflation, and it's going on worldwide. So for me, I protect myself with gold and silver. I don't believe in this digital money not worth the paper it's not printed on.
Well, the last 2 years we've had, for the first time, central banks, a long time, I think 2 decades. Prior to the last 2 years, for 2 decades, central banks were selling gold. And you'd see the Swiss was selling gold. You'd see another European country selling gold. And what I found interesting over that period was they were selling significant amounts of gold, and which I regard as the government's most precious asset. And there were absolutely no stories that I'm aware of on who was buying the gold at a big discount. Do you have any clue who was buying it?
No, I don't. And the other thing, as you said, here they are selling it, and what they're doing, I have to make this 100% clear. It is not in the central bank's best interest to have the price of gold going up. They will do everything they can to drive the price down. So let's make that real clear. Although I say gold is going to go up, they're going to do everything they can to keep the price down so that they can make it appear as though their worthless paper money is worth something, or digital money, I should say. It's not even paper anymore.
That was the first part of the conversation between Gerald Celente and our own Patrick Cooney. Patrick is Chairman, CEO, and President of Jory Capital. If you'd like to learn more about Jory Capital, it's jorycapital.com or 925-5211. We'll step aside and more between Gerald Celente and Patrick Cooney when we return. Great to have you with us on this Saturday afternoon. Greg Mackling along with Harry Gong from Jory Capital. Harry is the Vice President of Jory Capital. Our President, CEO, and Chairman, Patrick Cooney, was in conversation with the founder director of the Trends Research Institute, Gerald Celente, yesterday. And we have more of that conversation right now here on Jory Capital's Independent Research.
Now, throughout history, we know that fiat money always fails, and that's fairly conclusive. Why then today, with the internet, access to more information, why is the average citizen believing in what they're told by governments and other officials when history tells us a totally different story? Why aren't people adjusting their risk profile for markets and indeed understanding what you just pointed out, that it's not even paper anymore, it's digital, and at the end of the day, the probability is it's going to be worth a lot less than it is today. Aren't they catching on?
Because people believe in their ideologies and they can't break away from them. And I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in politics or political gods. I'll be damned if I'd ever bow or scrape to a political god. But they do. They'll fight over which freak they like the best. And they're trapped into their ways of doing things. Why aren't people buying gold and silver or believing that the digital money's not worth anything? Why do they eat, crap food? Why do they think Olive Garden's Italian food? Why do they drink Pepsi and Coke? Why do they eat McDonald's? Why is America the most obese place on the planet? Why do people watch the Kardashians? Why do they watch the presidential reality show and actually think it's real? So it's for all of those reasons. People have lost their courage, most of them, not all of them, but many, and their dignity and their self-respect and their integrity and their passion, and they become like sheep.
Well, in your the TrendsJournal, the summer of 2012, you start off with leadership, and you've addressed a lot of those issues now. And the one thing we like to do here is everybody has a keel and put it in the water, and we have a different group of people that work at the firm, but we're kind of like a flotilla. But we all want to be going in the same logical, common sense direction as a firm. And I look around and I see the large financial institutions, and you have two things going on. You either have yes men who just agree with whatever the boss says and will never challenge them, even if there's a requirement to be a voice of reason in a sea of insanity, but they're scared to do so. And then there's other people that get stressed out with the way the organization is behaving because it's hurting people, misleading both the employees, the shareholders, and the public, and they don't know what to do, but they're stressed out. What's going to resolve this? A war?
No, that's what they're going to bring us into, I believe. When all else fails, they take you to war. We've been writing about that for years. We knew that this recovery was only a paper recovery being papered over by the trillions of dollars the central banks have been dumping in. And you just keep following the timeline. It's the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. Same thing is going on now. The Panic of '08, Great Recession/Depression. There's a depression in Spain, depression in Greece, a depression in Slovenia, a depression in Portugal. They're rioting virtually every day over there. Millions of people taking to the streets. You have the entire Middle East is going up for grabs. You have riots in Yemen. You have riots in Bahrain, in Tunisia, in Egypt. Civil war in Syria, civil war in Libya. Things just getting much worse. And now read the headlines. Listen to Montega, the head of the finance minister of Brazil. Currency wars have broken out. That's what all this QE crap is. They're devaluing the currency so they can help exporters. And the same thing with the Bank of Japan. So now you have currency wars. Now go on to the presidential campaign over here, the presidential reality show, a freak show as I see it, where you have now Obama and Romney yelling about China and unfair trade practices. Yeah, no kidding. They're the people that made it happen, and they've been supporting it, but now they're using it as campaign fodder. So now when you put it all together, the next thing is war. And to me, the only thing that's going to stop it is when the people stand up. And the people stop taking this baloney from these bunch of bad actors.
Well, you mentioned currency wars, and obviously we're going into a global depression, and so to let your currency fall to pick up, exports when the global economy is shrinking, surely their economic advisors know that this isn't going to work. Like, there's absolutely no logic to that because you've got a global economy that's shrinking, so why are they advocating a policy of self-destruction for the global economy?
Because they just want to get what they can get from it. And again, these are shrewd people, but they're not necessarily intelligent. And they've been called it wrong continually. Why should they call it wrong now? And again, they're junkies. They're money junkies, just like a heroin addict, somebody hooked on meth, or coke. Do they think logic? All they want to get is what they can get. They have no bounds or boundaries. So you have money junkies. They don't care about the consequences. Consequences don't count. They just want what they can get.
Well, we have a local paper called the Winnipeg Sun, and I think last Thursday on page 8, they had something out of the Rolling Stone from Matt Taibbi. And he was talking about the U.S., and he was basically implying that there's two sets of rules and law. He said the Wall Street guys that have committed all kinds of fraud and stole billions, maybe trillions of dollars are totally exempt from any kind of punishment. And then the middle class, if they step out of the strict guidelines, they get punished.
Well, I've been writing about this for years. We call it justice. Justus, just us, not them. And the reason it's like that is because that's what happens in a fascist state. It's been a takeover, the merger of state and corporate powers. What a surprise.
So, okay, what do? We know we should own gold and silver to protect ourselves. Should we bother going to the voting box, or what should we be doing? Should we be looking at guys
I'm not
like
voting. I won't be part of it. I don't vote for lesser of two evils. I don't go out with them. I don't do business with them. I don't associate with them, and I'm not voting for them. We need a new system, and for me, it's direct democracy. A takeoff of the Swiss system. Take the hands out of the politicians. It's just a crime gang. Instead of themselves calling them the Bonanos and the Gambinos, or the Lanskys or the Schultzes, they're the Republicans and the Democrats.
Gerald, I really appreciate you spending time with us, and we always enjoy your comments. And the most important thing about it is if you're on radio, and it's kind of one-dimensional because it's audio, but the passion and intelligence you bring to this, I hope we've had an impact on the listeners of the show when they can recalibrate risk, reevaluate what they're doing with their lives and how these institutions affect them, and become better citizens.
Oh, thank you very much. And, of course, our website is TrendsJournal.com, and the only thing that's going to change is when the people change, and that's what the Trends Journal is about, trying to bring that positive change into the future, back to the present.
Gerald Celente, always outspoken, always honest, no shortage of honesty from Gerald Celente right here